Sandeepna.
And I am Saina.
And welcome to the Worst Case Scenario podcast, where we explore literary masterpieces under different themes, questions, and debates.
And for today, our topic is Voices Under Scrutiny.
Exploring dramatic monologue and other tangents in poems, from Victorian confidence to modernist anxiety. In 1842, a duke commands the murder of his wife.
In 1842, another king desires a last voyage before his death.
In 1915, a man could not even ask a simple question.
From command to ambition and paralysis. That's the journey of dramatic monologue.
What happens when a poem doesn't tell us what to think, but simply lets a character talk?
And what's fascinating is that this form evolves with history.
In this podcast, we explore dramatic monologue as both a literary form reflecting the culture of a society and as a psychological lens, focusing on three main poems.
Robert Browning's My Last Touches, Alfred Lord Tennyson's Ulysses, and T.S. Eliot's The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. Looking at the background of the poems, so the first one is My Last Touches by Robert Browning, 1842. It is a chilling dramatic monologue which is inspired by a 16th century true story of Duke Alfonso II Dieste, who was the Duke of Ferrara. So the poem, the poem is a masterpiece of dark psychology in which the Duke unintentionally reveals that he likely murdered or ordered the murder of his wife because he supposedly did not like the cheerful personality of his wife.
Psychotic.
Yeah, very much psychotic. And he was like, it tainted his 900 years old name.
Definitely going to be an interesting piece to look at. Coming to the next one, we have Alfred Lord Tennyson's Ulysses, which is also the warrior Odysseus from the Battle of Troy. And it was written in 1833 and published in 1842 as well. And it basically became a cornerstone of Victorian poetry. It is written in the form of dramatic monologue, and it talks about an aging Ulysses who expresses his deep restlessness, and he wants to go on this adventure and he wants to gain experiences and knowledge because he misses the time that he was in battle. And now that he has to come and rule his kingdom of Ithaca onto people that he doesn't even know and he doesn't even relate to, he feels restless. He wants to get out.
So the first poem that we will be looking at is Robert Browning's My Last Touches, and here we will explore the moral self-exposure of the Duke. So in My Last Touches, then we see here Browning perfecting the form of psychological exposure, and the Duke speaks to an envoy while displaying the portrait of his late wife. So we see the setting here is very much aristocratic, the tone is controlled, even in the language we see that how dominating he is, and his speech also flows in a very controlled way. And talking about the form and structure, here we can see heroic couplets and enjambment, and it subtly also reveals the tension between control and spillover.
Right.
Yes. So yeah, before heading on, I will share one line from the poem itself. So it goes like, or blush at least, she thanked men. Good. But thanked somehow, I know not how, as if she ranked my gift of a 900 years old. So here you can see how he is revealing his disguised insecurity.
So he doesn't want his woman to smile at other men.
Insecure man that he is.
And he has an unhappy marriage.
Exactly.
Right, so we also see that Browning does not directly attack the Victorian system of patriarchy, marriage, or even in the later stanzas when he critiques dowry.
Yeah.
I mean, he does not critique dowry, but we critique dowry
through
his usage of the system of dowry in the Victorian society. So the individual himself is kept under scrutiny or under the larger societal system.
Yeah, so here we can in the entire poem we can see that the Duke's insecurity, the urge to control his wife is so much visible in the entire narrative. We see the symbols of power, assertion and control, ownership, etc.
Yeah, and this leads me to wonder, what if Browning had just openly criticized the dowry system or the system of patriarchy, or just openly criticized?
Yeah, so see, if he would have done that, if he had literally openly criticized the system itself as a whole, it would have become a social critique instead of a dramatic monologue. So here, as readers, we wouldn't be able to judge or interpret what the narrator, the single character, is narrating, or the silent interlocutor would become completely invisible. So the entire theatrics of dramatic monologue of judging or interpreting would be completely vanished. Here we would only listen to it as a social critique rather than something to interpret.
So the poet withdraws and the reader judges.
Yeah.
Right. Also, So in that case, the Duke is actually confessing to his murder without realizing it. He thinks he's justifying it.
Exactly.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah. So going to the towards the end of the poem, I'll tell you one fact. So at the end when we see him, at the end the poem is basically not ending with the Duchess or the Duke, but it is ending with the statue. Yeah, we see the line Neptune taming the seahorse. So it is said that the art historians they reveal that in the Renaissance era, it was a propaganda of the gods, the statue of gods taming inferior creature. It was a propaganda symbol of domination and power structure.
Alright, so drawing upon our last discussion about drowning and the Duke, I think it beautifully ties in and also creates a bridge to look into Tennyson's character of Ulysses. If you actually read the poem, you will notice that he operates in a very similar kind of way to the Duke, but his tone and his ambition are completely different. But his ways of operation are quite similar.
Yeah, I mean his purpose and the ideals are quite different. But in this case too, he is the one who is flouting from the societal norms, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, before diving deep into it, let's talk about the poet. Okay,
Right.
What do you think would have influenced him to write this piece?
That is a very interesting question because I was very excited to talk about this because I have a very special piece from Tennyson himself.
Yeah.
So basically, he wrote this after the death of his very close college friend Arthur Holman, and Tennyson wrote it as a form of catharsis, as he says in his own words. And this Victorian researcher, Victoria Hughes, actually says that there is more about myself in Ulysses, which was written under the sense of loss and all that had gone by, but that still life must be fought out till the end. It was more written with the feeling of his loss upon me than many poems in memoriam.
So I mean, do you have any lines from the poem?
Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So he says in one part where he says, "How dull is it to pause to make an end, to rust unburnished and not to shine in use." Then in the end he also says one of the most quoted lines in literature. He says, "One equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield."
Oh, that one. Yeah, I see. Well, he did make quite a mark with it though, and
Exactly.
keep naming taking the poem as a dramatic monologue as a whole itself.
Yeah, exactly. And now coming to the poem itself and how it serves in the politics of the dramatic monologue, and what parallels he can draw to the Victorian society itself is that Ulysses reveals himself as a very confident, ambitious man, and his goal reflects core Victorian ideals, and he also looks at his role as very futile when he's ruling as a king. He wants adventure, he wants to go out and have knowledge, experiences, and all that thing. So the poem idealizes male ambition while neglecting female agency. He also talks about this when
Yeah, in the beginning of the poem, right?
bad flags, aged wives.
So
Exactly.
yeah, even though he has a lot of ambitions and desires,
Yeah.
you also see a lack of female agency, which also sort of reflects the idea of the Victorian society
Exactly.
at that time. So the Victorians did held into like the societal norms while also idealizing some of the attributes as well, didn't they?
Exactly. So that is the catch. That it does reflect Victorian society, but it also reflects why he cannot follow it, why he cannot follow the ideals. Where he says that he doesn't say it, but we judge him as falling into the dreaded category of the individual versus society. So his aspirations are different from what the society demands of him.
Yeah, like Browning's Duke as well. Ulysses is also an individual deviating within the society.
Within the larger system.
Yeah, and this also brings me to the parallel which we can also see between John Stuart Mill's idea of individuality in his From on Liberty.
Yeah.
Right. So yes. So what do you think about when the poet does not critique the kingship and all?
I mean, it's the same as we discussed, that the poem does not critique its kingship, or his role as somebody who needs to govern. It is the idea of it being a dramatic monologue that it reflects the norm of the society through the form itself. It wants us as the reader to judge that he is the one who does not want to follow the norm, and he has his individual aspirations. And interestingly, he also justifies his aspirations as, handing over the responsibility to his son Telemachus. Has anybody asked Telemachus what he wants? And he says he works his work and I mine. He thinks his work is to go and be ambitious, but Telemachus has to do what he cannot do.
Yeah, so the poem is basically focusing on Ulysses' personal refusal to inhabit the,
Exactly.
the responsibilities that the society is assigning him, right?
Yeah.
So to sum everything up, just as in my last touches, the system remains unquestioned here, right? So we scrutinize the speaker's desire here. So do we see it as a case of noble individuality, or a self-indulgent escape from the responsibilities?
I mean, that ambiguity is deliberate. Victorian confidence is present, but in a very uneasy, kind of unstable way. So that is what makes it a dramatic monologue. It's dramatic in that way.
Wow. Yeah, agreed. So the last piece is the modernist piece, and it is by T.S. Eliot, The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, which was published in 1915.
Right, and that is a landmark modernist poem now, but before it was actually rejected as a senseless poem because, I mean, it is evident. When we read it for the first time, I was awestruck is not the right word. I was spellbound as well, but maybe in a negative way. I did not follow his thoughts.
Completely puzzled what he was reading.
I agree. And but later it did become a landmark modernist poem, as I mentioned before, and it has a dramatic interior monologue. Though it is debated whether or not it is a dramatic monologue, it still does qualify as one due to various different criteria. Right, and it explores the paralyzing anxiety and the insecurity and the social alienation that this man called Prufrock faces in his daily life. And he's basically a middle-aged man in an urban setting, in an urban 20th century setting. And Prufrock is basically plagued by his inaction. He cannot ask a question and he thinks that he has a lot of time, so he does not feel the need to hurry up, right? And he fears aging and he expresses his inability to express, again, his romantic desire.
Yeah, and together these poems, they will trace a movement from the Victorian confidence and authority to the modernist fragmentation and anxiety as we see in the case of Prufrock. But with these everything intact, they also follow the core form and structure of dramatic monologue, which will be the central idea of this entire podcast. Okay, so now we come towards the concluding question that why dramatic monologue endures. So in these poems, we see that dramatic monologue adapts to the changing historical pressure. For example, in Tennyson's Ulysses, we see that it elevates ambition while revealing the tension. And in Browning's Last Touches, we see that it exposes the moral demands of the youth. And lastly, in Prufrock, the entire thing is completely fragmented and it is completely splintered.
Absolutely agree. And what we want you as audience to take away from our episode today, and what we want to really conclude is that dramatic monologue has evolved from a Victorian tool for psychological, historical and moral investigation into a modernist vehicle for fragmented reality, for fragmented consciousness, for interiority, existential alienation and whatnot. While masters like Robert Browning and Alfred Tennyson, as discussed, use this to explore the soul of the man through historical personas and dramatics, in ironic situations, modernist poets such as T.S. Eliot actually adapted it to reflect a certain disillusion and chaotic and inward-looking 20th century mindset.
Right.
And that is what is the takeaway from today's episode. We hope that you enjoyed.
I mean, we enjoyed too.
Yes.
We got so many comments and actually, if you say, a lot of unordinary things also we got to see in Duke's murder.
Yes.
And T.S. Eliot's baseless. I mean, it's
Midlife
not
crisis.
baseless, but it's not baseless, but that's what we felt when we were reading it. So that was about our today's episode about the voices under scrutiny.
We hope you enjoyed the episode because we certainly did.
Yeah, I mean, all the murder mystery, all the ambitions and the baseless talks of Prufrock.
Yes,
Yeah.
midlife crisis.
Anyways, so that's it. Hope you liked it and we are signing off.
See you in our next video. Bye.